Welcome, everyone. We're just about to get started with our panel today. Just give us about 30 more seconds here. Great. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a number of people waiting. We're very excited for this all-star panel today. Engagement, recognition, retention, what's happening as we move into 2024. So we're going to get right to it. Today we are excited to have three veteran experts in the arena of engagement recognition. And if we go to the next slide, I'm going to give you quick logistics on what's going to go on today. We're going to introduce our panelists, and then we have 4 slides. We're going to be very quick and brief what's happening today. So a lot of you know and are in the trenches with what's going on with workforce changes and trends. We're going to give you some updates. Then we're going to have the panelists weigh in on what they're seeing with their individual companies, industries, and the economy. Then we have 3 big slides: tips and tricks on recognition, tips and tricks on engagement, and a little bit about just what we're seeing is working out today, small, medium, and large companies. After that, we are going to have some additional Q&A, so you will have an opportunity to weigh in. Because of the large number on this webinar today, we do not have chat enabled, but we do have Q&A enabled. And we have Tristan Hermanson, 20-year vet working for Advantage Club, that is manning the ship for us. So she will be okay. Can you hear me okay? What we don't get to, you will have an opportunity at the end to provide specific questions to all of our panelists and to all of us in general. So if we're not getting to any specific questions regarding your specific company, industry, segment, etc., you will have an opportunity to reach out, and that's part of what we're doing today. So with that, I'm going to go around the horn, and I'm going to start with Bonnie Tinder. Please provide, hey, who are you? Who do you work for? And then what companies are you working with today related to the topic?
Great. Well, hello. I am Bonnie Tinder, the founder of Raven Intel, and we are a peer review site similar to a Yelp or a Glassdoor, but we actually look at the implementation of HR consulting projects and give HR departments the opportunity to rate their software implementation and consulting partner. I've spent the last 25 years of my career in the HR technology industry and certainly have seen the dynamics of HR shift from a transactional function to a very strategic one. The lens that I bring to this conversation is really around the engagement and retention of employee teams on projects. At Raven, my company, our reviews are based upon team and people dynamics, just like the employees in your organization focused around a particular project. And what we see is a direct correlation with our 5-star projects with engaged teams that have a low turnover. And I'm really happy to share what we're seeing in this area today.
Great. And next we have Dr. Randy Truitt. Randy is in a secret mission, so not physically able to see us, but here with us today. So Randy, if you want to give your background and what you do currently.
You know, I could have a lot of fun with this talking about background since you just introduced me that way, but I won't do it. Randy Stovall, I am been doing this now for about 27 years in this half of my career. I'm currently working with a company called Comfort Systems USA. Comfort Systems USA, we've grown both organically as well as through acquisitions. We have acquired to date more than 40 other unique operating companies that are decentralized within our organization. We continue to acquire. In fact, we had an announcement just this morning on a new company that we purchased up in the northeastern United States. Most people don't know who Comfort Systems is, but if you've ever heard of companies like Embraer Jets, Air Canada, Qantas, Lyft, they all have one thing in common, and that is that their market capitalization is less than that of Comfort Systems. So we have, we'll probably get close to 15,000 employees as it goes on. And my role in this is I'm basically in the trenches. Every day training, working with recruiters, working with HR staff in different geographies. Their business models might be a little bit different, so being able to adapt and depend on those. And talent acquisition, talent recruiting, which if you were on the last webinar, you know I separate very clearly between recruiting and acquisition, and retention is a big piece of acquisition. And I see my role here as just bringing a little bit of a different viewpoint from inside the foxholes.
Terrific. And Marilyn.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to Advantage Club for inviting me to be part of this experience today, and really hope the people who are attending that you get some really good nuggets out of this experience. So my name is Marilyn Pearson Hendricks. The people who know me, I go by MPH, my initials, and I am the co-founder and owner of a multinational consultancy called Worktech Advisory Incorporated, and we, our clients are the solution providers globally in the HR and work tech space. And so we help, so we get this like really interesting bird's eye view of what is happening and what the go-to-markets are and where essentially the trends are happening and what's changing in terms of buyer behavior. And just a little bit about my background is I am a 35-year veteran in the space. My first decade was working, doing, I would say, business transformation for two very large manufacturing companies. And then 25 years ago, I transitioned over into the software world. And really, the sum of it is, I think I've dedicated my career to, I would say, advancing innovative approaches in people management at scale used by the leading organizations across the globe, really at the intersection of HR technology, business transformation, and global go-to-market from buyer perspective, from a software perspective, as well as from a services perspective. And I'm a complete geek on the space. So honored to be here today and really looking forward to this conversation.
Great. We're going to get right to the meat and potatoes. Again, just a reminder for anyone that just joined, we've got about 3-4 slides on current trends. Then we've got 3 specific slides, engagement recognition, and also kind of the employee wellness trends that are occurring. And we'll go to the panel after each of those slides to hear what they're seeing. After that, you will be able to weigh in if you have any other specific questions. Please use the Q&A, and we have moderators that will be popping in as we go. So with that, next slide. Okay, and next. Okay, so this will all be made available to you, but I want to highlight a few of the trends. One is still a tough job market, okay? And not only is it a tough job market, North America and elsewhere, 85% of employees are not engaged at work. That comes from Gallup, meaning, are we truly not looking at any other jobs? Are we committing to 100% of our time? And our employer, no. We also are seeing the stats go up. So even if we've had an offer and in hand, about 87% of people today are looking at other jobs through the first 90 days and beyond. And that leads into this idea of silent quitting. So part of it is in the remote world we live in. Part of it is just people generally looking over their shoulder, either concerned with their own company or looking for that next opportunity. And we call it silently quitting. The other thing we're seeing is how does that translate into the numbers? Disengaged employees, anywhere from 30 to 40% of salary is lost. and hiring is getting more difficult and costly. Next slide. So the disconnect we're seeing in Q4 is, if we had a show of hands and we were all sitting in the same place today, every one of you would say, hey, we do recognition, we do appreciation. All your CEOs are going to say, yeah, we value our employees, we're doing stuff. In fact, 90% of CEOs are saying, yes, we recognize employees. But let's take that same poll to the field. Let's take it to the entry level. 40% are saying, hey, not adequately recognized, and 68% say, no, I haven't been recognized. So there's a disconnect today. And if we look at that, we're compounded with this idea of hybrid work, which means not only work from home, but flexible work schedules. And that creates this vacuum of human interaction, which is inherent to some of that recognition. Next slide. Now, if that's not all, difficult as it stands, we now have economic uncertainty. We've been going through a year of, is it a recession? Is it not a recession? People needing to change, but putting on the brakes. And then we've gone through, depending on your industry, you've gone through layoffs, causing job security, survivor syndrome. And now everywhere you look, it's AI, right? So is there potential disruption in the HR function? Absolutely. How does that impact, our business strategy, our HR tactics, actions as we move into 2024? And next slide. And last slide on the trends. So that's macro. How about micro? Well, micro, this has really taken off Q3 into Q4, and we're seeing three big specific HR trends related to this retention, engagement, employee experience. One is TA models changing. As Randy alluded to, because of that tighter job market, we're looking at new and different ways to incorporate TA. And actually, when we look at acquisition, we can't not look at onboarding. We can't not look at retention and what are our reviews saying. Secondly, wellness and development. A lot of this spun out of COVID. Mental, physical wellness, employees demand that today. And then how do we train up our managers, right? To talk about career development, to discuss wellness. That's ongoing. And third bucket, a big trend we're seeing is this caring and inclusion, right? This is not new. It's not a post-COVID issue, but really has taken off post-COVID. And how do we get groups or employee groups and diversity groups and career development groups? And then how do we digitize this so that all people can communicate? So those are the 4 slides, bringing you up to speed, Q4, live stats. And then what I'd like to do, let's pause and let's hear from our experts. What trends are you seeing as relates to this engagement employee experience? And so we'll start with Bonnie again.
Yeah, I would add to some of the things that you mentioned, Matt. A big of one being employee burnout, and this importance of mental health and well-being. I think some of the pressures that have come as a result of the pandemic within the last 2 years is we're asking employees to do more with less in a flattened organization, and this idea of keeping employees from taking on too much, just to the point that they're ready to quit is it's a real thing, and every organization is facing it. So I think that's an area that absolutely needs to be addressed and monitored. And it's impacting retail organizations all the way through high tech. It's not industry specific at this point.
Great. Randy?
I think we need about 2 hours to talk on what you just laid out in front of us to begin with, but I'll take maybe a little bit of a different twist. Some of the stats you looked at today, and you can find them all over the place, about how many employees on the average are vulnerable to changing jobs or actively looking. You can find them anywhere from 25 probably to 50%, depending on what study, what industry you're looking at. Even though I'm in the construction, commercial, industrial space right now, I spent 17 years of my life in IT consulting, IT consulting, securities, pretty much all over the board on a global basis. And the question I always ask myself is this, and that is, if that fallout rate, let's just say for sake of argument, is 30%, what would my job load be like if I had 30% less openings of the 1,000 or so that I have? And the key to that is retention in a large part. Retention done by both recognizing value, by communication, by engagement, and of course, offering career choices and specifically upskilling. New stats are showing that employees are looking for upskilling opportunities more than anything else. And LinkedIn did a study that said that the average worker will have to add 3 new skills to their resume between now and the end of 2024. So there's a lot of work that can be done out there, specifically on the recognition side. I'll use terms that are HR, maybe recognition, engagement, and all of those things. With employees, it's a little bit more personal. In talking with the people that especially are out in the field, what that means to them is their hopes and dreams are moving forward. Their careers are moving forward. There's something that they can do to make a better life for their families. I was talking, and I'll try to do this quick, Matt. I was talking to Matt a few weeks ago, and I brought up, I refer to it as the Sisyphus effect. Sisyphus, if you're not a Greek mythology reader, Sisyphus was a king who just thought too highly of himself. He made a couple of gods mad. After death, he got the punishment of rolling a large boulder up the hill every single day, toiling, striving, working as hard as he could, only to get to the top, and the god just basically said, okay, roll back down now and start over tomorrow. I think what we're doing when we're not recognizing our employees and offering them opportunities is we're saying, look, show up at work, roll the boulder up the hill, end of the day is over. They come back the next day and the boulder's at the bottom again, and they go up and down and up and down and up and down with not a whole lot of hope. And there's only 2 results that come out of that. And one of them is they're going to go look for another job. And the other one that is really worse is that they just give up. And your productivity drops, wellness drops, everything falls apart at that point. So I kind of share with the company sometimes, don't be a Sisyphus. Don't force your people to do that. Give them options, give them upscaling, recognize them. Don't put them in that same day in, day out that's just going to burn them out overall and also cause them to leave to look for something better.
Great. Marilyn.
Oh, this is easy. I mean, I'm getting to stand on the shoulders of Bonnie and Randy on this type of thing. And I think this is like a really personal topic, I think, for all of us to relate to as people, because, we're not robots. And how, I think as business owners, the question becomes, right, how do I unlock the discretionary effort of people and such that this is not transactional? It's not, right, and we do this by reciprocity. It's the moments that matter in the journey that we're, for the limited number of days that we're on this planet, like I get to choose to be here. So it's agency. So how do we take like this, and then we have this conundrum that managers have this primary relationship with employees, right? We've all seen the studies, and managers their capabilities are variable. So from a company perspective, how can we put an insurance policy in place that we can have the moments that matter, that are really important? Can we reduce the variability of that? Can we make sure that the good stuff happens so that we can earn the good stuff from our people? And I think that's especially at scale, right? In a little company, it's a lot easier. When you start getting bigger and bigger, just inevitably, we need to figure this out. And I don't think that we've had historically really good systems and ways in which this can be done, right? HR has been automating itself. We're really good at payroll. We're really good at HR transactions. But when it comes down to the employee experience and those types of things, so what does that really mean? So that's what I'm seeing happening as I take a bird's eye view of the ecosystem, and also from a personal perspective of having walked in those shoes.
That's great. Okay. Now we're going to get to the so what. So we all recognize some of the trends here. And then what are we seeing in our companies in terms of what are some tips and tricks that are working around this idea of recognition, around this idea of engagement? So we'll go back to our presentation. Okay, and just a reminder for everyone, we have kind of one slide this time, and then the panel, one side panel, one side panel. So what's changing, what's working? Okay, let's go to our first slide. There is a great consultancy, Josh Bershon Company, and they kind of consolidated some analysis from other research, and they said, hey, what matters most? So if we want to get real specific on this, trust, transparency, inclusion, and caring were the big ones. And we will provide this with you. You don't have to scramble for notes here. It's very busy, but the punchline is trust in the company is critical, meaning mission, transparency, investment in people. Other thing that's very important is this supportive workplace. And what does that mean? That's inclusion, it's diversity, sense of belonging. And then closely behind that, career growth, that appreciation, real recognition, leadership, and purposeful work. So we're seeing those trends emerge across the board on all companies. So let's hear from our panel in terms of, hey, what matters most from what you're seeing with company satisfaction surveys, the work you do with all the companies you engage in. Go ahead, we'll go to Bonnie first.
Well, I think that's there's a lot of different ways to answer that, but in terms of overall recognition and call it employee motivation, I think what's working comes down to three things. Number one, programs and feedback that are regular. So showing, employee gratitude once a year doesn't cut it. And in order for employee effectiveness to really be effective, it needs to be consistent. And in order to do these, have these moments that matter at scale, like Marilyn mentioned, that is going to involve, certainly if you have a large company, an infrastructure by which to provide this mechanism. So that's a big deal. Again, it doesn't mean that you have to show appreciation daily, but to be able to plan for these efforts on a consistent basis is really important, and then to measure the output of that. I think the second major thing that's working is feedback that is immediate. So when an employee shows, as MP mentioned, that exemplary discretionary effort, an immediate recognition of that effort should follow. And I think where employees get burnt out or get frustrated is when there's too long of a wait between a positive behavior and then actual employee recognition or reward. It loses the meaning, and the individual is not going to want to do that, behavior again if they don't feel like they're getting immediate feedback for it. And then I think the third key, something that's really important for these type of things to work, is that the feedback or the programs need to be specific. Just a generic thanks or this, sort of platitude of, oh, we're so thankful for our employees, or, we love our employees. All of these type of things you hear from very senior levels, but it loses its impact if that's not demonstrated in the day-to-day. So it needs to be specific feedback about here's what this interaction meant to our customer, here's what it meant to the company, and making sure that that person knows that discretionary effort didn't go unnoticed. So I think, again, regular, immediate, and specific programs are the key.
That's great. Okay, Randy, what matters most to employees? What is your take with your companies?
Bonnie stole all of our thunder with that one, because I agree with absolutely everything that she said. Just a couple of additional, points to put some more meat on the bone. A lot of it is, the employees need to know what it means to engage. Let's go back to the beginning. If they hit goals, what are the rewards? We might say, oh, well, we reward you, but what is that? What are they don't know what they're working for, then I don't know. That's where it all falls apart. So that's kind of number one, but the consistency that Bonnie mentioned, so very important. And just to add a little bit more perspective, because I like to go back to the core of, why is it so true that millennials and Gen Zs and now Gen Alpha need that constant, feed of appreciation and value. And I might have mentioned this before, but, it's our fault. When I was playing sports, if I didn't get first, second, or third, I didn't get a trophy, I didn't get a ribbon, I didn't get anything. Now everybody hits, everybody gets a trophy, and everybody gets some sort of gratification the whole time that they're growing up. What does that mean? It means we made them who they are. And it's way too late for that kind of deep behavioral changes. So we need to just adapt to it and make those things available to them at the proper time. One of the huge problems that we have is that even though CEOs might say, yeah, we have recognition, fact is, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but somewhere around 70-75% of companies have absolutely no retention budget. And that speaks volumes because it tells the employee that it's not important. So I just really just adding on to what Bonnie said, she set the table perfectly.
Oh, you're on mute there.
Sorry, Marilyn.
There you go. From in the trenches perspective, just to kind of riff a little bit on this and add some commentary. One of the challenges that we have as HR practitioners, right, is not only do we have the regulatory and compliance and all the things that we need to do, but there's a lot of then what role do we play with managers in the business, and how responsible are we for that? And the tricky part of this is that we oftentimes will run into mindsets from managers, and let's say that they've been in the role a long time and that they've grown up in our same vintage, right? And they come to the table with, well, when I was starting my job, I had to walk 20 miles, I had to do all the things that I'm not getting ribbons and trophies today. So therefore, you shouldn't either. So one of the things I think that we're at the intersection of, call it change and technology, is to help overcome some of those more industrial era mindsets that exist in our managerial ranks and that aren't working or helpful anymore, right? And how do we do that at scale? And how do we essentially help managers become better managers from an employer perspective when their experiences individually may have been different? And that's one of the trends too, just coming off of HR Tech last week in Vegas and so forth. There is, like it or not, for HR, it's not just about checking the box on the paperwork and doing all the things that we've done while I was growing up. It's also that it's only going to go deeper into how do we ensure operational agility and organizational effectiveness above and beyond compliance. So I think that's our call to action.
Right. Okay. Tristan, back to you. All right, so let's get down to specifics regarding recognition opportunities. Now, in my 25 plus years, we have seen a lot of different ways to run at this, but post-COVID, at Advantage Club, we have 4 million users on a monthly basis, 120 companies, 120 different countries. All sorts of industries. And what are we seeing in terms of recognition opportunities? There's 5 buckets that we see companies moving into. So number one is we see an expansion of this recognition opportunity. So like Bonnie was saying, more, but legitimate. So we see service markers being automated in terms of recognition. That can be as simple as a customer service rep passed training module 2, that gets celebrated, that gets announced, and that goes to other peers. So service markers, that can be company-wide, team-wide, or individual. The other thing we're seeing is, hey, birthdays and anniversaries. Most companies, especially if it's smaller, your culture, you have a birthday cake, you pass around the card, that's great. How do we scale that? Well, what we're seeing is through technology, automated work anniversaries. And these anniversaries may not just be annually, it might be in a high turnover sales position, it might be your first month or your second month or month 9, or you got through. So we're seeing more recognition, automated work anniversaries, and then birthdays. In addition, groups and committees. So how do we recognize folks? Well, we get committees together or groups together. Some people, large organizations, call them employee resource groups, right? Diversity is something you are passionate about, join this group or committee. What we're seeing is more groups and committees. So CBRE, VP Global, said, hey, look, for all of the commercial real estate, they were doing studies pre-COVID. 70% of people had a satisfactory, as an aggregate, satisfaction with their job, kind of mental satisfaction, about 70%. Post-COVID, even after we started this, not going to the office, we're still at about a 70% productivity rate. But mental health has dropped in half, 38%. And why? We're missing that human connection. So more committees around, hey, photography clubs or UNC, football club, et cetera, ways to connect our employees via technology. Next is learning and development, putting groups together and committees around mentorship, development, training, and then contests, and contests that are beyond the sales contests, beyond the quarterly revenue, right? So contests around volunteering or contests around service or contests. So all of these buckets, we're seeing a lot more frequent recognition and more personal recognition. So I want to go back to our panelists and we'll start again with Bonnie. Any specific companies where you see, hey, they're working, the recognition they're doing is kind of slick and they're seeing an uptick?
Yeah. I'm going to focus on one that actually costs nothing, and that's just the internal specific recognition. And what you had laid out there is great. But there's one that not everybody has unlimited budgets to do contests and offer bonus structures and things like that. When some programs that when effectively done internally to recognize discretionary efforts and a job well done will go a long way, or at least be supplementary to the financial budgeting that you'll have to do in order to create these type of programs. Not to say that those also will go a huge way, but short of that, making sure that you have that feedback mechanism so that you're internally recognizing people for the work that they do. At our company, we recognize people through the voice of customers, and we collect customer feedback that is then used to help show internally what good looks like. So, companies that use Raven to rate their projects actually get all of this great customer feedback, and that they can easily use and route internally to say, okay, this go live project just happened. This is what the customer said. They rated this person a 5 out of 5. Here's the specifics on that. So again, even just an internal email that is immediate, that recognizes the person as well as specifics about what was said by the customer. Not only is that good internally for the employee, but that's going to impact the bottom line of the company, because that customer sentiment means that they're going to eventually, deepen the relationship and win more business there. So again, the internal recognition that is specific around project and customer feedback, I think is huge and very important.
Right. Randy.
I was looking at that saying, oh, that's important, that's important, that's important. So I really think we have to take the attitude that just like in recruitment, there's no one size fits all, one single answer that takes care of everything. It takes several different resources and several different ideas and plans, whatever you want to call it, actions. And I also think we have to look at it that different business verticals. I'll try to talk here next time. Different business verticals. That's also going to change. What Bonnie just mentioned, I completely agree with. But in this particular industry here, that's not going to get you anywhere. And it takes a different idea. If I had to answer that question about either one of those buckets being most important, I would probably say learning and development, but then I'd also add to that learning and development with follow through. If they're actually take the effort to do something and to learn a new skill or gain a new certificate or anything else like that, reward them immediately. Don't make them wait for it and let them know what that reward is. There's a really simple way to, find out what's going to matter the most with your people. And it's kind of complex, but I'll throw it out there at you. You go ask them and just find out. Sometimes just asking that simple question, just knowing that you value what their opinion is on that will go a long, long ways. But I just want to warn you, once you ask that question, be ready for the outcome because you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube.
Right. Marilyn.
All right, so with your permission, I'm gonna unlock my inner geekdom on this. And it drives to hard dollars and cents as well, which is, can what you're doing for your people be good? It's good for people and it's good for business. And I think some of us old timers come to the table, well, it's mutually exclusive. But if riffing a little bit on Bonnie as well as Randy is that we can measure, customer experience, if you would, NPS score, right? And there are measurements of employee experience, call it Glassdoor rating. And what we're seeing at the solution provider level is a hard ROI that says we raise the bar on our, call it Glassdoor rating, or however you're going to do your measurements, Qualtrics, or whatever employee listing device you have. We're going to raise the bar there, and we can directly, what does it mean to your net profits when your net promoter score goes up? And that's not inverse. And the way I think there's a mindset in business, that it's mutually exclusive. It's some sort of a scale instead of we're raising all of that up. And that, I think, is the ticket. And that drives into a hard ROI that makes a business case for what can appear to be perhaps a soft and fuzzy and not necessarily, kind of like more of a discretionary, this is a nice to have versus a must have. So.
Great. Tristan, I think we had some questions that are flying in.
Yes, we do. We have quite a few questions, but I will start off with something that's very relevant here. How are companies driving entry level or hourly engagement, or versus hourly engagement?
I guess I should jump on that first, since that pretty much describes the majority of our workforce, about 80% of it. One of the problems that we have in skilled trades, and I don't know if that question comes from somebody in that situation, but one of the problems we have in skilled trades is it became not popular years ago when we started saying you got to go to college, you got to go to college. Average age of journeyman in certain trades in some states is well over 50 and close to 60 years old. The fact is we don't have the people to replace those that are driving out of the job market just because of retirement. And we had to take a step back and look at something different. And so one of the things that we're doing is our apprenticeship programs are going all the way back sometimes to the 8th grade, where we introduce trades and we let them see that, trades isn't just, having a shovel or a drill in your hand, There's real technology. We use drones to map out things. We use really powerful design systems to be able to put together data centers and hospitals and government buildings and high rises, building information control. So there are choices. And one of the sad things on top of that, just looking at another stat, is when interviewing those that are getting ready to graduate from high school, just graduated, or within a year, only 6% of them want to go into the trades business. And so that's created, all of those things together means that it's estimated we're going to need about 500,000 people every year over and above what we already need, and they're just not there. So putting together programs so that we can engage with them early on, even before their career starts, I think is primary. As far as other hourly things that we look at, we're taking a look at job completion rates. If there's a bonus from the customer that if we finish on time, at or under budget, there might be some kind of a kickback or a reward company-wise. And that gets spread out, that gets shared. We let them know that their work matters. Offering different, again, upscaling opportunities, because if we put them in that same position over and over again, in this case, let's say dig a trench, next day dig a trench, next day dig a trench, the boulder's just rolling back over them already. So we want to offer those upskilling opportunities. And if they know that they can get, and we will pay for, that's the key, that upskilling opportunity that might cost them normally hundreds or even thousands of dollars out of pocket, we're earning loyalty. And so those are just a few of the things. And quite honestly, we all need to do it better. And I'm saying that about us too.
Marilyn or Bonnie?
I would absolutely agree with that, and this idea of a clear career path, and for employees to really take ownership of their career and their upward mobility internally, so that there's no black box that contains the secrets of how to move up in the organization. And I think that the clarity and transparent communication about, here's the role that you have today, but here are the other options in the future for you, and so that somebody has a very visible roadmap from getting from, the boulder up the hill position into that next stepping stone in their career. And, helping an employee help themselves, and really own that process, is where, certainly things like technology would come into play, even for your hourly, non-deskless worker workforce.
I want to just add one thing on there then, Marilyn, I promise it's yours. I won't interrupt anymore. Actually, I can't promise I won't interrupt anymore, because anybody who knows me knows that I really do interrupt a lot. But one of the examples that we use is military. In the military, you know exactly what you have to do to move from one rank to another. And it's very defined, it's very marked out, it's very tracked, and the opportunities are, they do their best anyhow to put them in front of you. That should be our example when it comes to career path. They should be able to know exactly what they have to do to get from point A to point B.
My father was in the skilled trades, and he was a heavy equipment operator, and he worked for the same company for 45 years. And, I think about like the difference today, right, between the mindset and the bond that existed. And there was a covenant, if you would, between the employer and the employee. So at a more macro level, I think what's ending up happening is we're kind of going into history, repeating ourselves. As employers, we had a period of abundance, if you would, with the labor supply, and those rules don't apply anymore, right? And so that is a meta trend, and that we don't necessarily fully call it at the individual managerial level. And I think what employers need to do is make sure that the infrastructure and the system and operational systems really can overcome some of the resistance that may happen at an individual mindset level through the programs that we put in place. to overcome the fact that there are just like the shortage of labor is, I don't even think it's fully appreciated unless you're in the trenches every day, like what Randy you are in. But this is what we are seeing over and over again with really the people that I've grown up that are in, you know, senior level CHRO, CIO positions in the industry, right? That is, how do we deal with this? So that's an overall. I don't know what else to add there. So great question. Oh, you're on mute, Matt.
So to just wrap this up, couple buckets. We just talked about recognition bucket, and we're going to get into engagement bucket, tips and tricks of what we're seeing. And on the recognition side, across the board, what we're seeing is more intentional recognition, incorporating everybody. And part of that is, what do employees want? So we have to do the training and retraining of management and middle management and employees. Raise your hands. It's different feedback. It's different one-on-ones. It's development plans. All of that is important. But in terms of straight engagement, what we're saying is, hey, use technology, use phones, use mobile phones. Email doesn't work. But double down on when you got the barbecues and the volunteer events. Let's double down on that, but celebrate it more. Let's get it out to more folks and have more frequent opportunities. That's generally what we're seeing, and that's by industry and by size of company. So great segue into engagement. We're going to go one more slide. We've got about 9 minutes left, and we're going to talk real quickly to this point. As Marilyn, as Bonnie pointed out, hey, the good old thank you goes a long way, right? And if we go to next slide, what are the engagement opportunities? So recognition, telling someone specifically, good job, and for what they did. Now, how do we engage employees more? So these are the trends that we're seeing. This is from multiple industries, multiple sizes, and globally as well as North America. Number one is technology. We're getting very good, as Marilyn said, at all sorts of HR tools. We got 20 different tools, and we got 20 different finance tools. Hey, what's something simple that our employees can use that everybody actually uses it? And then what is the process or the rules behind that? So something that is integrated that people actually see. Today, a lot of people say, hey, our problem isn't culture, it's communication. Nobody's getting our newsletter. Nobody's getting the information, right? So, hey, what works in your organization? Secondly, doubling down on those communities and groups. So whether it's simple teams or project managers or the retail group or sales group or whatever, continue to double down on that and have more opportunities for people to get involved and then celebrate what they're doing. Get more people involved. Events. More events. So everyone says, hey, we do this great thing in August every year. Well, let's do something every month. Or let's steal what some good companies are doing and let's double down. Let's have an engagement event. That could be a March Madness event. That could be a holiday event. That can be something around service. But let's get more out there. And then let's celebrate it. Then that gamification, and gamification is a technical tool. All technical word. All it means is, hey, let's put up more ways to recognize folks. Maybe not trophies across the board, or maybe not ribbons across the board, but legitimate things. Safety. Let's talk about compliance. Let's talk about customer feedback, customer service, etc. But more of those leaderboards, not just the sales revenue, right? And then finally, on actual rewards. Gone are the days of, hey, you get a plaque or you get a catalog. No, let's move into flexible rewards. So what we do is we provide points, and those points are flexible, and you can use them for gift cards, or maybe you want to use those for experiences, etc. But think about, when are rewards important? How do we reward, and what should be rewarding, how often, etc. So differences in terms of what do the employees want for actual monetary and non-monetary awards and incentives. So those are the buckets we're seeing. And let's go back to the panel. We have about 6 minutes left, touching on, hey, what are some great things you're seeing with your companies on expansion? I'll go backwards this time. I'll go Marilyn, then we'll go Randy, and we'll go Bonnie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the mindset that exists, and I'm even thinking of some of my direct clients, if you would, as employers, and it's the ones who really are embracing the customers and the connection of what's good for their client or customer experience is also good for employees, and it's not mutually exclusive. And that gets into having programs, if you would, that support all of that, along with a manager. Like I was with one of my clients last Thursday night, and we were talking about this very topic, and his name is Stovall, and Stovall was talking about, like, my mindset is not here, right, and I need to change, and that is leading to a employee recognition process by which we will even be featuring their experts, which provide them with competitive advantage on their website and also in their social media. So taking it even farther, but it's directly tied to the NPS score.
That's great.
So I just go back there. Yep.
Great. Okay. 4 minutes. We got Randy, then Bonnie, and then I'll wrap.
Okay.
I'll try to give you some time, Bonnie, but just like I said with the other slides, all of those are important, and all of them can be valued maybe a little bit differently depending on what your business vertical is, and that's something that you'll need to work on, especially by asking your people. But I'll hit a couple of things for whoever or the people that were asking about entry-level work and hourly. When it comes to just small financial incentives, don't underestimate to somebody who's making $18 or $20 an hour, giving them a $100 gift card, or paying their electric bill 1 month, or giving them a food or a grocery store card. It goes a lot farther than a lot of people think. And that's also true, I think, as you move up the ladder, just those little ways to show appreciation go a long ways. Events, one thing that we do well is we do a lot of barbecues at job sites. Some of our companies even have competition barbecue teams with their own rigs, and they drive out there and they do it. And we usually tie that into some kind of a safety talk to be able to also emphasize safety within the organization. But really quick to technology, 10 years ago, you might have had the excuse to say, look, to do everything you're talking about here, I'd have to hire one person, maybe a whole team to get it done. There are a lot of opportunities out there within technology that make this a lot more seamless. You have a lot more help in putting it together, and offers a lot of different opportunities and solutions for you. And I'll just highlight and say that one of those is our gracious host here on this webinar. You can't use the excuse anymore of I don't have enough time, because the value that it's going to feed back to you is more than worth the effort, especially the way that technology assists.
Great. All right, Bonnie.
And what I will add is just the importance of omni-channel rewards and recognition, because I love all of the ideas about events and the barbecue, and there is nothing that replaces that in-person team building and camaraderie. I wish that it wasn't the case, but that's not the reality for many companies. And so the importance of recognition and rewards that can be distributed remotely, or events that can be done remotely, are important, as well as the in-person stuff. And I'll give you one parting example of a way that recognition was done well, and it was actually at my gym. So we get, as a member of my gym, every 6 months we get a survey, and it asks about everything from the classes to the cleanliness of the gym to the equipment. And it gives the opportunity to recognize the staff that are there. And so there is a woman who is a janitor, and everybody knows her and everybody loves her at this gym. And she got recognized, just last quarter. And I saw it out, number one, on social media. And that was a big deal because it reached a lot of people. Everybody recognized her picture. And it was in the omni channel. It made sure that if you didn't go to the gym that month, you knew that this woman, Marta, was recognized. They had her picture and everybody commented how much we love her.
That's great.
But then at the gym, also, they had a poster up recognizing Marta for, and it gave a customer quote as well. So all of this, this long example to say that, making sure that recognition doesn't just happen in an in-person environment is really important, and rewards in the same way.
That's great. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you the final slide. And then there is a whole slew of questions that people have asked. What we're going to do is, if you go to the final slide, you will see ROI, and to win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. We will put questions submitted, and we will go back to our panelists, and we will also allow our panelists to weigh in on their final thoughts. We will send that via email to all of you that have joined. We want to thank you all for joining. And if you have other specifics, we will have an opportunity following this with the presentation and the ability to set up a quick meeting and or get those specific questions answered on the tips and tricks of what's going on in your individual company. So again, thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to all of you who joined today, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.